yes, we're gonna face trials, and yes, we're gonna face hurts, but he gives us freedom to be okay in that. We are allowed to be sad, but to also be happy. To truly just say, you know what, God is good, even still. Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new, my name is Hillary. My hair is looking crazy. I'm so sorry. I had a hat on. I took it off a minute ago to lay down. My name's Hillary. I'm a mom to a 4-year-old named Sebastian and a 2-year-old named Zeb. And if you are new to my channel, you may not have seen my last video where I shared about our recent miscarriage. This is going to be the second video kind of in that series, so I just want to put up a trigger warning if you are going through this, or if you've been through this, or if you are uncomfortable listening to someone talk about that experience. Then I totally understand if you need to click out of the video, or if you're in a place where you just can't handle this right now, then let me know. But this video is going to be more about what you can do for someone who is going through a miscarriage from like my perspective of someone who went through one, and the things that people did that made it easier. I just feel like I wouldn't have known what to do for someone if I had had a friend go through this prior to my miscarriage. I would not have known like how to be there for them, and I feel like that it's something that I think people should share. You know, if someone did something specific for you that made your experience better, leave it in the comments, because you know, you just never know what's going to be helpful for someone. And so I just want to share about the things that people did for me that just made my experience so much better, and just showed me the love of Jesus through a really dark time. So welcome to today's video. Okay, so I had intentions of like planning this out and like writing it down and like, you know, having some kind of plan, but honestly that requires so much more energy and effort, and this whole experience is really hard to talk about and to relive, and the thought of like putting it on paper and then sharing it just felt like a lot of really hard heart work, and I wasn't sure I was able, or wasn't sure I was up for that type of experience. So I thought I would just talk and kind of continue. And the whole reason I started filming any of these miscarriage videos was because I wanted to share from my perspective for myself, but also just because I think that there's so many people that need support and they don't know what they need. And so that's kind of where the heart of this video is I truly cannot say the words to express what people stepping up and doing for me meant to me. It's unfathomable, honestly. The Friday that we went to the ultrasound, and if you missed my most recent video, I did share the whole story of our miscarriage and kind of the process of it, and I'll link it above. But the Friday that I went for the ultrasound and we found out basically we were losing the baby, and that it had stopped growing, I had texted a very, very, very dear friend of mine who has become one of my just biggest confidants through this entire experience. I mentioned in the last video that me and 2 of my other friends from my mom's group all found out we were pregnant around the same time. We were all due around the same time. And then one of my other friends, you know, in that group of the 3 of us, she started experiencing loss before I did. We were seeing the same doctor, which is ironic. I wanted to go to her doctor because she had expressed so much goodness about this doctor and all of that. And so she went for an ultrasound, and basically, I don't really want to share her whole story because it's her story to share, not mine. But basically, her baby's heart was still beating but was slowing. And so she had a much more traumatic experience, in my opinion, of continuously having to go and be checked because the baby was still alive and his heart was beating, and then it stopped. And so she had this really long journey, and so she had shared pieces with me, but obviously I was still pregnant, and so I was doing what I could to be there for her. I was praying for her, you know, going through that experience together. Me being pregnant, her losing her baby, you know, was a little bit weird, but I wanted to be there for her, but I was unable to be there for her in any way that I would have known how to be, if that makes sense. until I went to my appointment. And on that Friday driving home, she was one of the first people, outside of my mom, I think she was the first person I texted. And I just said, basically, like, went to my appointment today and somehow I'm going through this with you. Somehow this is happening to both of us. Like, how did you survive this? I don't know what to do. And from the very first text that I sent her, she has been just a sounding board for the strength and love of Jesus Christ. Anytime I was, those first couple of days were really hard for me. I was in this place of, I didn't, like, God, this isn't fair. I was in this place of, this is just not, I'm not okay. I'm angry. I couldn't pray. I couldn't even, like, fathom the ability to pray to God because I was so mad and so hurt and just dealing with so much unexpected trauma, going in to think that I was going to see a baby moving and then to just not. There was no preparation for this experience. And so I was just I was having a hard heart. I was in a really dark place. So because of that, one of the texts that just kind of reached my soul was when she said, it's okay if you can't pray. She was like, I will be your go-between. I can't think of the word, but she was like, I'll be your go-between. I will pray for you. You don't have to pray right now. It's okay. And for someone to be experiencing what I was experiencing and still be so selfless to say, I will pray for you, when they themselves were walking through what I was walking through, it was honestly just, it blew my mind. Like, how could her heart be prepared to, like, be there for me and take care of me when she was going through what I was going through? How did she possibly have the heart to be supportive to me? But she was, and she's continued to be, and we've continued to be there for each other in so many ways. And so I guess that's, like, my first thing is just, if you've been through a miscarriage, then you have a very different perspective than someone who never has. As much as I love my mom and as much as she was such an amazing help, even when she was holding me that Friday night, she was laying in bed with me and she was, just talking to me, and she was like, I don't know what to say. I've never been there. And she was so supportive and did so many helpful things with watching my boys, going to Chick-fil-A and getting breakfast just so I didn't have to get out of the bed on that Saturday morning. Just texting me prayers and sending me verses, and she was doing everything she could, but it's very different when you've never been through it. And so if you have been through it, then I encourage you as a challenge to seek other people who need support. Now that I've been through it, not that I'm wanting someone to go through this, because that's never the desire of my heart, but I want to be able to be what people were to me. I truly think that this whole experience, the whole reason God allowed this experience to happen to me, was because He wants me to be a testimony and a light for Him to someone else. And you never know when that's going to come. But if nothing comes from this experience, then I feel like it wasn't worth it. And if I can share Jesus with one person because of this experience, then it 100% was worth it. And so if you've been through a miscarriage, then I encourage you, to be there for someone when they are going through what you've already been through. So meaningful texts and prayers were what kind of carried me through. But above that, in response to the meaningful texts and prayers. So I don't know if I've really shared much about this. I've mentioned my mom's group a few times on social media, but I don't know if I've ever shared my heart about it, and how if I did not have it during this experience, I truly would be in a state of depression right now. I would not be okay. And I know that. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that that's where I would be. But so basically, since I got pregnant with Sebastian, I've been seeking a community. I have wanted friends. My whole life, I've never had a lot of friends. I've had a few close friends, but I've never been a part of a really big friend group. I've just never had a lot of friends, and I've always, craved that and desired friendship and community. And after having Sebastian, it was even more prevalent. However, we were living an hour and a half away from everyone I knew. We only had one car, so when Zach was at work, I couldn't go anywhere. I was at home with just me and the baby. And that continued for obviously a really long time, all the way through when Zeb was born. And with both of them, I struggled with really, really deep postpartum depression. And with Zeb, I suffered with a lot of postpartum anger, and just like, it was a dark time. But shortly after I had Zeb, we had moved back to the Locust Grove area. Shortly after I had Zeb, we had moved back to our hometown. And because of that, I was able to kind of form some friendships. And I was able to like form some friendships. But then even more so when January of 2022, when we got the notice that we had to be out of our last house, which I'll link that video above. When we got told we had to move out of that house, and we were in this like, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna live? And my mom was like, we'll renovate the upstairs, you guys can move in. And that was such a blessing in so many ways that I never could have predicted. Moving in here, my grandmother had just moved in, and because of that, that basically meant I had access to a car. It's not my car, I don't have free reign of it, but my grandmother doesn't have a lot of things going on outside of, you know, some appointments here and there. And so pretty much if I need the car, we work it out and she lets me have it, and it's a blessing. And through all of that, I was able to basically form friendships, and it was like God finally gave me this desire of my heart. He worked it out through all these circumstances of first moving us back to the same area, but, you know, living 30 minutes, like moving back to the same general area, but not having a car yet. And then a year after that, creating another space for me to now have access to a car to create these friendships. He has just had his hand working through all of this. And so when we moved in with my mom, I had a friend who reached out who has 3 boys. And she was like, boy life is crazy. Like, let's get together. We went to a park one day, and then we went to the library, and it was through all of that. She was like, do you want to join my mom's group? And I was like, what's a mom's group? Thinking like it was a social media Facebook thing. Like, I had no idea. And I had no idea that the benefits it would bring to me. But I was like, yeah, I want to join your mom's group. And so every other week we do a Bible study. And then on the weeks that we're not doing Bible study, we meet at like a playground or, you know, at somebody's house, whatever. We get together, and it's community. And that is everything I had ever prayed for. So all of that, having that group, had I have experienced a miscarriage with Sebastian or Zeb when I was pregnant with them, one, that's really hard to think about because they're clearly alive, and like, that's hard to think about. But had I have gone through a miscarriage living in those places, I'm not sure I would have made it. Depression probably would have taken over me. This time, however, it's almost weird that I haven't even really struggled with depression. You know, the first weekend after that appointment, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, really that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that first like week was really hard. The Friday and Saturday, I pretty much didn't get out of the bed at all. And I felt myself slipping into depression, but it was simple things like going and sitting downstairs and my sister-in-law bringing me over a basket of goodies with some macaroons, my favorite, and my son telling my mom that he wanted me to have a bouquet of flowers. And so my mom bringing me home a set of flowers, and, you know, just having beautiful flowers to look at, and having my sister-in-law say, hey, I'm stopping by, you know, just for like 10 minutes. But, you know, just to see me and bring me a treat and to let me know that she was there for me. It was people being there without me asking, without me having to think of what I needed, that truly carried me through. And so, like I said, that weekend was rough. Also, my grandmother made me my favorite dessert, which is something she really only makes at like the holidays. We usually have it at Christmas, Thanksgiving, that kind of thing. But since she lives with us and we had all the ingredients, it was like the one thing I really wanted. And so, of course, she made it for me. And so that was another blessing of all of us living together, that she was able to just make that, and I was able to have it right away. And so it's just like little treats and people just going above and beyond for me, someone who didn't deserve it, someone who had, like, I didn't even have to ask for these things. Like, people were just doing them. And it was that alone that I think if you know someone going through something, don't necessarily ask them what they need, because it's really uncomfortable to be like, oh, I need this. Like, oh, can you fold my laundry? Like, oh, can you bring me dinner so I don't have to feed my kids tonight? Like, things like that are just so uncomfortable to ask for. But if somebody just says they're doing it, it's really hard to even like be gracious. It's hard to just say like thank you. But through this experience, I kind of learned that like that's what God gives us. Like he gives us the people who will do those things for us, who want to do those things for us. They're not doing it because they have to. They're truly doing it because they want to, and because it helps them to be a light. And that, I think, is one thing that I just wouldn't have expected. Which leads me kind of to the next thing is, so that was kind of the weekend, and then through that, my friend who was also going through miscarriage, she said part of the way that she healed her experience and her heart, you know, in this first week that she was going through it, was by being there for me and doing stuff for me. And she called her mother-in-law, who is also a friend. It's all, you know, we're all connected. We all grew up kind of in the same area. And so I know her mother-in-law well. And after she told her mother-in-law what she was going through, her mother-in-law stepped up and made these breakfast pies to bring over to my house. And then my friend made like a bunch of mini frozen pancakes and brought us dinner. And she brought all of that over so that I wouldn't have to think about breakfast for the boys. I could just throw a frozen pancake in the toaster. They could eat it. They were good to go. The pies we could just throw in the oven and then eat them. And like we were good to go. And then dinner that night, this is the sweetest part for me, that my friend, who is also going through miscarriage, she is a vegan and she does not eat meat, obviously, but she went above and beyond and prepared chicken. And she said, she was so sweet. She was like, I was sitting there cutting chicken, and the whole time I was cutting it, I was going, I love Hillary so much. I love Hillary so much. And I just think that alone, like, just shows her heart and shows, like, the goodness of God in all of these circumstances, that she was willing to cut chicken when she is a vegan just to bring me dinner. And again, I live with my mom and my grandmother plus my family of 4. And so she prepared a meal for 6 people with dessert, with breakfast, like above and beyond. And, you know, when people have babies, people bring meals. When you have a baby, people want to bring you meals. They want to take care of you and blah, 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 and come and see the baby. But when you go through miscarriage, it's almost like no one wants to do anything for you. But like, if I had had a baby, someone might have brought me food. So if I lost my baby, I probably need food more than when I have the baby. You know, when you have the baby, you want to sit and just snuggle it. But like when you go through loss, that like you can't even fathom eating. I didn't eat for like a week straight, like outside of like a bite here and there, because I just couldn't. I was just not able to. But obviously my family still had to eat. And so someone thinking about that and taking that off my plate, and quite literally her text to me was like, I'm not asking, I'm doing. Like, I will, like, can I bring you a dinner on Tuesday? And my mother-in-law is making this, and we're going to have these for you too. And she, like, brought it, showed up. She didn't even have, like, she was like, I don't want you to get out of bed. I'm just going to drop it on the porch, and you can just have it, and, like, don't worry about it. And I was like, who does that? Who is that kind to, like, do that for me? It blew my mind that people wanted to be there for me and that people were willing to do these things for me. I still can't believe the goodness I was shown. And so yeah, so that was just a really sweet blessing. And then I had another friend who I'm not super close to. We both have boys, and she just recently announced that she's pregnant with her rainbow baby. But she had miscarried, I think 3 different times. And so she obviously knew the hurt, and we were mutual friends. Obviously we're social media friends. And we talk if we see each other, but we're definitely not like super close. So she wasn't even in my circle, but she knew what I was going through because my mom had connected with her mom, and she reached out to just say, like, I'm here. This is what carried me through. She sent me scripture. She sent me some songs, some words of wisdom. And then she also prepared a meal for us and brought that over and went above and beyond to make sure it was gluten-free. She brought a special treat for my boys. She brought me this really cool shell that was like a symbolic of miscarriage. And, you know, again, we're not even that close. Like, we are friends, but she's not by any means one of my best friends. She's not in my mom's group. She's not someone that I see on a regular basis. And yet her heart was to be there for me because she knew what it felt like, and she knew what she needed and what helped her. And that's kind of the whole point of why I want to share this video, is because if you've been through it, you know what made it easier for you. And if you haven't, then you're probably like my husband. He's so sweet. But, you know, the whole time we were going through this, he was like, I just don't know what to do. Like, I know you're hurting, but there's literally nothing I can do. He couldn't take the pain away. He couldn't do, and I was like, he couldn't do anything for me. And it was hurting his heart to not be able to take care of his wife, because obviously, like, that's what God calls us to do, and that's what he wanted to do, was to take care of me. But he couldn't. But he stepped up and took care of our kids. And my mother-in-law came over, and she folded so much laundry. And it was truly just the people, like the village of people that surrounded me, stepped up, sent me consistent text messages, didn't just send me one and done and not think about me again, but texted me daily and prayed for me and cleaned for me and cooked for me and did so many things so that I didn't have to, and I didn't have to ask for any of that. They just did it because their hearts are just so kind. And I truly feel like I'm kind of a changed person through that, because not that I'm not a nice person, but it's just not my heart to like think, oh, let me just cook you food. Like, that's not my personality. I'm not going to go up to a stranger and just like, oh, here's a meal for you. But I think now I have learned that, like, that's what God calls us to do. He doesn't call us to be comfortable. Being a Christian isn't comfortable. If anything, we are judged more harshly because, you know, we're not of this world, and we're not called to be of this world. We are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and people were truly the hands and feet of Jesus for me in this experience in ways that I 100% cannot explain. I can't express the kindness that was shown to me and what it meant to me. I don't think I would have survived this had I not had this community. I think Sebastian's awake, but I just hope that this is an encouragement to you, and that if, you know, you are the spouse of someone going through miscarriage, or if you have a friend who is, and then you somehow see this video and you're like, what can I do to make her life easier? Like, how can I help? Also, I had one of my other friends, she picked up my son and took him to t-ball practice. They're on the same team. And so she took him to t-ball practice just to give me a break. Like, just people just stepping up. It just blows my mind how kind people were. I mean, even still. But if you come across this video and you are like, what can I do? How can I help? Above all, pray for that person. And don't just say you're going to pray. I mean, on your hands and knees, God responds to tears. And I truly think that people were in tears praying for me. They were comforting me. That following Thursday, after everything happened, I went to my mom's group, and both me and my friend were there, and our entire mom's group split in half, and they put their hands on our shoulders and they prayed over us. And it was almost like the presence of God was truly holding me and embracing me. And I've never felt so comforted. I have never felt so loved. I've never felt so safe. But I felt the hands and the arms of Jesus just wrapping me up in his love. And that, I think, is how I survived. That is how I think I'm okay. I was texting my friend today, and we were, you know, she was like, how are you? And I was like, you know, I'm doing good. It's almost 2 weeks out since the miscarriage. And I was like, I almost feel guilty that I'm okay. But, you know, Jesus gives us the freedom. He gives us the freedom to live. Yes, we're gonna face trials, and yes, we're gonna face hurts. But he gives us freedom to be okay in that. We are allowed to be sad, but to also be happy. You know, I will never on this side of heaven ever experience complete and total fulfilledness. Because part of my heart will forever be in heaven. I will forever have had this baby that now lives with Jesus. And that's something that I will carry with me from here on out. But that doesn't mean that I have to just sit and be sad. I'm allowed to be sad when I need to be, and I'm allowed to cry when I need to be, and I'm allowed to take those moments of grief and experience them and feel them. But it's also a freedom to be okay, to truly just say, you know what, God is good, even still in all of this sadness, in all of this hurt, in all of this brokenness of this world, he is still good. He's just so good. And because of that, I'm able to be okay. I'm able to say, you know, I feel good today. And I'm able to find joy and peace. And I don't know that I would have experienced those same feelings or the same gratitude had I have gone through this a few years ago. So I'm grateful that God gave me this experience when he did, because yes, he gave me this experience of hurt, but he also gave me He doesn't call us to be hurt. I was listening to a podcast. I'll link it below because I don't remember exactly what they said. But the podcast was, essentially saying that God doesn't give us hurt. He doesn't. That's not his will. But trials and things are part of this life. Like, we will face trials. We will face hardships. We will face tests of our faith. And this was 100% a test of my faith that I would say I passed, because I allowed myself to feel hurt and to grieve and to spend those first few days in the bed and be hurt. But I was also able to do that because God gave me so many people to take care of my life so that I could just grieve. My kids weren't unattended. My kids weren't starving. I was able to grieve because God gave me community. He gave me the deepest desire of my heart. And while I've been grateful for this community all along, I don't think I would have truly been as gracious and as grateful had I have not always been seeking this community and praying for this. But he gave me the fulfillment of my heart. He gave me the desires of my heart. And he comforted me through the darkest experience I've ever been through. And I just feel like I have to share that. I have to share his goodness even still. I want to get a tattoo that says that because I just keep hearing those words. Like, he is good even still. I really want to get even still tattooed now. And I'm not pregnant, so I can. There's the morbid joke. If you watch the miscarriage story, yeah, I've made morbid jokes. It's kind of how I've coped. It's weird. But anyways, this video is getting long and rambly. But like I said, if you're watching this and you have a friend going through miscarriage and you just want to know how to help them, pray for them. Above all, pray for them. Take them food and don't ask them if it's okay. Don't ask them what they need. Just be there for them. Step up. Go fold the laundry. Go, take their kids to the park for an hour and, go sit with her while she cries. Do whatever is on your heart that you feel like you should do. Don't ask, just do. Because if people had asked me what I needed, I would not have been able to give them an answer. I didn't know what I needed because I was going through so much emotion. And so people deciding for me what I needed was truly, I think, the biggest gift of all, was people just taking care of me when I couldn't give them an answer as far as what I needed. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe because I'm hoping Disney vlogs will be up after this. And if you don't know, that's part of my miscarriage story was Sebastian taking care of me. And so we're taking just a mother-son trip, just me and him. We're going to Disney World. We leave on Friday. Today's Wednesday. We leave on Friday, and I'm really excited to spend the weekend with just him and, make some magical memories and, truly find some more joy in this whole really sad experience. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you in the next one.